Hey, Stephen Yanni here at High Octane Classics in Auburn, Massachusetts with an American classic, the 1968 Ford Mustang. Now, this one's a fastback. You got to remember that in 1968, about 317,400 Mustangs were built in all body styles. But the vast majority were the little two-door coupes with the opening trunk. Small percentage were convertibles, and only 42,581 were fastbacks like this, which of course debuted late in 65 as the 2+2. And in fact, back then in 1965, the fastback was also a very small part of production. Of course, by 1970, fastbacks accounted for almost half of all Mustangs built. But still, for 1968, the fastback body style, as sleek as it is and as popular as it is today, accounted for a small percentage of Mustang sales. Again, only 42,581 fastbacks were built in 68. Now, this is what you might call the second generation Mustang, 67 through 70. And the big thing about these is they're a little bigger than the 65s and 66s, but they have room for a big block under the hood. We'll get to that in a minute. But the beauty of this particular one here is that it's been customized. And like the Tri-5 Chevy, the Corvette, the Mustang is one of the most popular American cars for people to modify and make a good thing even better. Now, this one has a lot of Shelby Mustang GT350, GT500 touches, including the fiberglass hood, which is very similar to what would have been seen on a Shelby Mustang in the day. And it's basically a nice callback to the Shelby dynasty. The paint on this one is mouth-watering, sort of a tangerine orange. Almost makes you want to eat it. It's that cool. This does, of course, have the timeless GT headlights, which have little faux driving lights, which are actually the directionals up front, but they're driving lights actually, and the horse in the corral here. And just a great look. The chin spoiler added, not available in 1968, but you can bolt them right on and they look fantastic. And again, the fastback body style, to me, is the sleekest of the bunch. It's fast, it's back, fastback, it's here. Now this one is modified again with four-wheel disc brakes. We see them on the front, and big American Racing Torq Thrust wheels. And these rotors are actually slotted and cross-drilled for heat dissipation to minimize fade if they're under severe use. And again, here's that beautiful fastback body. And again, the styling touch has been added here. The GT350, GT500 Shelby type C-pillar scoops here, molded in Shelby land. This would be a standalone piece bolted to the car, but extra care has been taken here to do a very nice job of molding it and making it as one with the body. Same goes for the side scoop area here. This would have been a bolt-on in Shelby land, which is basically a kit car. Well, this is more of a custom with really nicely done blending here of the surfaces. Looks like Ford did it back in 68, but it is custom. And the beauty of the Mustang fastback, of course, is how the tail of the car comes down to a narrow peak. The window sort of has a taper, and the trunk lid is just a work of art, really. And the rear fascia, basically the sculpted in convex form right here. Some call that the cam back style, the chrome bumper creating a nice denominator for it, and beautifully Mustang spelled out in individual letters. And I got to say, in mass production, it's more expensive to have letters individually installed because people have to put those on. There was no computers, no robots back in 68 at the Ford Rouge plant. These things were installed by hand. The cheap way out would have been a one-piece Mustang badge slapped on the car. Well, Ford continued with quality on these cars, even though they were popularly priced. They weren't that expensive in the day. This one's just beautifully done. You got to love the rear valance seen on the GTs with the cutouts for the dual exhaust. And again, the orange paint on this, the tangerine paint, is not something that was available from Ford in 1968. But you know what? As a custom, it works really well on this example. Might be time now to look under the hood. Before we open the hood, one interesting detail is that 1968 was the first year that American cars had to have an externally visible VIN through the windshield for law enforcement to identify stolen cars or whatever it might be. Well, Ford put the VIN on the passenger side for 68 only. 1969, they went to the driver's side, but here we see a C in the fifth spot telling us this was a 289 two-barrel car, but that was then. Under the hood now, still have a small block, and that's fine. The Ford small block is nearly as potent as the Chevy small block, and that's saying a lot. This one is a 302, and we can see that it's basically in stock form. The two-barrel carburetor is retained, and that's okay. That's like 220 horsepower right there, which is plenty. It'll get your attention. I like how the finned aluminum valve covers have been added. The original cast iron exhaust manifold still there, which is really okay for a daily driver. Quite often steel tubing headers develop gasket leaks and flange splits and stuff like that, whereas these, you bolt them on and you'll never hear from them again, which is very good. Aftermarket air conditioning added here with the cooler on the front. All of these things keep you nice and chilled inside on a hot summer day when you go to the cruise. Nice big radiator in place right here. It's a factory tank, but it's been recored, and it's got a flex fan type arrangement here with a shroud, which again directs the air right through the core for maximum cooling. A little bit of a custom touch here in the form of the aluminum finned air cleaner, classic stuff, Shelby-ish. And the cowl to shock tower brace has been chrome plated, again, for a little more eyeball effect. Disc brakes on this one to power up those four-wheel discs, the power brake booster, of course, right there. And power steering on this one as well. So it's not a muscle machine, and that's okay. Mustangs have plenty of style without having to have 500 horsepower. You can get by with 220, 230 horsepower just fine. Let's look inside. Like all Mustangs, there's a floor-mounted shifter, which is far more sporty than the column shifter that could be seen in Camaros and Firebirds, believe it or not. Even Barracudas had the potential of a shifter on the column, which kind of speaks grandpa's pickup truck. But again, all Mustangs had a console-mounted shifter. This one here is the C4 3-speed automatic. And again, no need to work a clutch in this one. Just put it in drive and go. Some slight custom touches inside. The original bucket seats are still in place, but the orange piping here plays very nicely into the tangerine of the body. And even cooler, the seat belts are color matched to the car. Kind of a nice touch. This is the kind of stuff right here that wins points at car shows should you decide you want to show the car at an event like that. The dashboard looks very original, and in fact it is, right down to the 120 mile-an-hour speedometer, but some light modifications that hide in plain sight are the Nardi steering wheel with the polished aluminum center, the real wood rim, and of course this is a Mustang looking radio. But here's the thing, a company called Custom Auto Sound, one of the pioneers in solving the dilemma of older cars with big old ugly holes in the dashboard. What Custom Auto Sound does is they offer a radio that looks like an original Mustang radio, but kind of hides in plain sight with AM and FM and digital readouts. So it's kind of nice to see that, not an aftermarket piece that looks out of place, but rather something that looks stock but is actually far better. The interior of this thing very nicely presented in this sort of a leathery cream color right here that works well, complements the orange. The dual cowl effect on the instrument panel here with the padding like you want to have it, the wood grain, very, very tasteful. Now the one thing about the Mustang Fastback is that it is truly a 4-seat car. The back seat is pretty small. We can see that the drive shaft tunnel's here, so 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 4-seat car, but this part does fold down for access to the back for more cargo area. And something that people don't most often realize is that these chrome grills right here are functional. You slide this here and it opens to a vent that allows cool air to blow into the back seat passengers for more comfort. So again, inside this one, it's a nice blend of originality and custom touches, and all of it's very tasteful. One thing I always like to do when I'm looking at a customized or modified car is look in the trunk to see if the level of effort's been executed from front to back, top to bottom. And I think we're going to like what we see here. Yeah, that's cool. This is not a stock treatment here. The carpeting inside of this, which matches the interior of the car, has been added. And I love how the tangerine paint has been applied to the hinges of the deck lid and even the underside of the deck lid. Shiny, polished, looks very, very tidy. So again, the quality on this car is front to back, top to bottom, no shortcuts taken. It looks very, very nice. We walk our way down again, aero straight body on this one. I don't see any signs of damage, repair. And again, the way that the quarter panel scoops are molded in is something that Carroll Shelby never took the time to do, but whoever built this car did, and it looks really good. The front fenders are stock, but again, that GT350, GT500 style hood really gives this Mustang an animal presence. But with the 302 two-barrel under the hood, you don't have to worry about running race gas or dealing with lifter adjustments or anything like that. This is going to be a very steady and happy daily cruiser. It just proves the point that Mustangs can look fantastic stock or modified. If you like what you've seen in this video, keep in mind that most of the vehicles shown on the High Octane Classics YouTube channel are available for purchase. for as little as 10% down. And even though High-Octane Classics is located in Auburn, Massachusetts, we can deliver these cars anywhere on the planet. And we do consider trades. So if you have a motorcycle, another classic, an exotic, you name it, we can certainly consider it as a possible trade toward the vehicle you want to buy. To learn more about these vehicles, check them out on the High-Octane Classics website or call 508-859-4515.